I'm watching footage right now that could change the global economy within days, and almost nobody is talking about it. Two unidentified speedboats, no lights, no warning, no communication, just a direct approach, and then gunfire. This happened this morning, April 19th, 2026, in the Strait of Hormuz. But what matters is not just the attack, it's the message behind it. Because this wasn't chaos, it was calculated. And before we go further, understand this. If you care about what happens to fuel prices, food costs, and the stability of entire economies in the next 72 hours, subscribe now, because this story is moving faster than the headlines. Here's the first thing nobody is telling you. This was not an act of war. It was something far more dangerous, a demonstration, a signal, a line drawn in water that carries 20% of the world's oil supply every single day. And that line was crossed deliberately. The question is, why now? We are now on day 50 of a conflict that began on February 28th, when coordinated strikes by the United States and Israel hit Iran's leadership and military infrastructure. Since then, the world hasn't just been watching a war, it's been absorbing the shockwaves. Oil markets destabilized, emergency reserves opened, entire nations started preparing for shortages. But what you haven't been told clearly is this. This war is no longer about territory. It's about control over a single choke point that can shake the entire global system. If you want real-time updates as this develops, hit subscribe now, because what happens before Wednesday could affect billions. Now go back 6 days. April 13th, the United States imposes a naval blockade on Iran during an active ceasefire. That one decision changed everything. Because under the agreement brokered days earlier, both sides had one rule: no escalation. But that rule was broken. Here's the second thing most coverage is missing, and this is critical. Iran didn't respond immediately. It waited, it calculated, and then today it responded in a way designed to send a message without triggering full-scale retaliation. 2 attacks, 2 ships, no casualties, no sinking, just damage, just enough. Ask yourself this: if they wanted to destroy those ships, could they have? Yes. So why didn't they? Because this is a strategy, a long-practiced doctrine. Hurt, but don't provoke total war. Show control, but avoid giving your enemy justification. This is not random aggression. This is controlled pressure. And right now, shipping traffic is already reacting. Vessels slowing down, rerouting, waiting, insurance costs spiking, oil prices climbing again. That impact doesn't stay in the Gulf. It moves directly into your daily life, your fuel, your food, your electricity. Pause and think about that, because this is where it gets even more serious. The ceasefire technically still exists, but in reality, it's already collapsing. And the deadline is Wednesday, just 72 hours away. If you're still watching, subscribe, because this next part explains exactly what could happen next and why it matters more than anything that's happened so far. Here's the third thing nobody is explaining correctly. This is no longer just a military conflict. It's an economic weapon. Iran doesn't need to close the strait completely. It just needs to make it unpredictable, expensive, risky. That alone is enough to disrupt global supply chains. And here's the twist. This pressure doesn't hit everyone equally. Iran's primary oil exports are largely directed toward Asian markets. But the disruption? That hits Western supply chains harder, meaning the very blockade designed to pressure Iran is now amplifying pressure on global markets instead. Let that sink in. Now look at the bigger picture. Inside the United States, there's growing tension behind the scenes. Publicly, the message is confidence. Privately, reports suggest disagreement. Some officials pushing for more pressure, others warning that the blockade may have crossed a critical line. And in the middle of that, uncertainty. At the same time, Iran's leadership didn't fracture after the initial strikes. It consolidated. Faster, stronger, more coordinated. What you're seeing now is not instability, it's controlled execution of long-prepared strategy. Meanwhile, another risk is building quietly. Lebanon. A UN peacekeeper killed, accusations flying, a fragile ceasefire under strain. A second front could open at the exact moment diplomacy is trying to prevent escalation in the first. This is not one crisis anymore. It's a network of pressure points. And at the center of it all, Pakistan. One of the only nations able to communicate with both sides. The mediator behind the current ceasefire, the last functioning bridge between two sides that no longer trust each other. But even that bridge is starting to crack. Negotiations are stalling, meetings missed, conditions rejected, and the clock keeps ticking toward Wednesday. So here are the two paths ahead. Path 1, quiet compromise. The blockade softens without being officially reversed. Iran reduces pressure in the strait. The ceasefire extends. Markets stabilize for now. Path 2, no agreement. The ceasefire expires. Attacks increase. The strait becomes effectively unusable. The United States responds. Regional escalation begins, and then this 50-day conflict doesn't end, it expands. But here's the part that should concern you most. There's a third scenario: no full escalation, no clear resolution, just a slow, ongoing disruption, a gray zone conflict where the strait never fully closes but never feels safe, where costs rise gradually, where supply chains strain silently, where inflation builds, not in headlines, but in your daily expenses. That scenario doesn't shock the world, it drains it. And that may be the most dangerous outcome of all. Because what's at stake here is bigger than one war, one country, or one leader. It's the assumption that global trade can move freely through critical choke points. If that assumption breaks, even slightly, the ripple effects reshape the global economy. The Strait of Hormuz is only 21 miles wide at its narrowest point, and right now, the economic future of billions is moving through that space under rising uncertainty. So here's the question. When Wednesday arrives, does this de-escalate quietly, or does it cross a line that cannot be undone? Drop your answer in the comments. I read everyone. And if you want clear, fast, no-noise breakdowns as this story develops, subscribe now, because the next 72 hours could redefine far more than just this conflict.